The first transmission came without warning, a burst of compressed data that sliced through the galactic communication networks like a blade of pure information, leaving a trail of stunned silence in its wake. The Zornak Confederation's primary communication hub went dark for precisely 2.7 standard galactic seconds, long enough to send a chill through every sentient being across a dozen star systems. Captain Rebecca Sutton stood motionless on the bridge of the UES Defiance, her reflection ghosting against the massive viewscreen. The ship's hull gleamed with a metallic sheen that spoke of humanity's most advanced engineering, a testament to decades of quiet preparation. Around her, the bridge crew moved with a precision that bordered on choreography, each motion calculated, each breath controlled. They had been waiting for this moment. Not hoping, not wondering, waiting. The alien diplomatic channels had always been a complex web of treaties, negotiations, and carefully maintained distances. Humanity had been the newcomer, the species everyone watched with a mixture of curiosity and barely concealed contempt. They were the upstarts, the recent arrivals to the galactic stage, who seemed more interested in trade and exploration than the intricate political dance that had defined interstellar relationships for millennia. But something had changed. The Defiance was more than just a ship. It was a statement, a declaration written in titanium, quantum computing cores, and enough firepower to make entire civilizations pause. Every system integrated into its design represented years of covert research, of learning, of preparing for a moment that most believed would never come. Commander David Chen, the ship's second-in-command, broke the silence. Incoming transmission from the Zornak Central Command, he reported, his voice steady. They're requesting, no, demanding, an explanation for our presence in this sector. A slight smile traced across Captain Sutton's lips. Requesting, demanding, as if humanity had ever been in the business of explaining its actions to anyone. The ship's quantum communication array pulsed with a soft blue light, a technological marvel that could transmit data faster than any known species could comprehend. Every system around them was about to learn a fundamental truth. Humanity might have arrived late to the galactic party, but they were definitely not here to be wallflowers. Deep within the ship's armored core, systems hummed with potential. Weapon systems that blended cutting-edge human innovation with reverse-engineered alien technologies. Defensive capabilities that could turn entire planetary bombardments into nothing more than a light show. The Defiance was more than a battleship. It was a message. "Patch me through," Captain Sutton said, her voice carrying the calm of someone who knew exactly what was about to unfold. The communication channel opened. Thousands of alien administrators, diplomats, and military commanders would be watching. Listening, wondering. They had no idea what was coming. In the vast darkness between star systems, something fundamental was about to change, and humanity was going to be the one holding the hammer. The holographic display flickered to life, casting an ethereal blue glow across the bridge. Alien faces materialized, representatives from a dozen different species, each more agitated than the last. The Zornak ambassador, a crystalline being whose form constantly shifted like living glass, spoke first. "Explain your vessel's presence in restricted space," the ambassador demanded, translators rendering the words with clinical precision. "The Galactic Concordance clearly defines." Captain Sutton cut him off with a look that could freeze plasma. "The Concordance," she said slowly, "is a document written by those who believe they can dictate the boundaries of exploration. We're here because we choose to be." Behind her, Commander Chen pulled up a series of star charts. Each one told a story of systematic, calculated movement. Humanity hadn't just arrived randomly. They had been planning this moment for decades. The charts showed carefully mapped trade routes, strategic positioning, and areas of potential resource extraction that the established galactic powers had overlooked. In the decades since first contact, humanity had been perceived as the newcomers. Naive, unprepared, A species more interested in cultural exchange and economic opportunities than the complex political maneuvering that defined galactic relations. What the other species didn't understand was the deliberate nature of humanity's approach. Every diplomatic meeting, every trade negotiation, every seemingly innocent cultural exchange, it had all been preparation. The ship's communication officer, Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez, monitored the incoming transmissions. Her fingers danced across holographic interfaces, filtering and analyzing data streams that would have overwhelmed most alien communication systems. Something was brewing, and it wasn't just the tension between humanity and the Galactic Concordance. "Captain," Rodriguez interrupted, "we're detecting unusual communication patterns from the Kepler rim. The Chlorian Collective is mobilizing something big." The Chlorians, a species of biomechanical entities that had long been the silent enforcers of galactic peace, or what passed for peace among species more interested in maintaining their own power structures. They were known for their ability to neutralize potential threats before they could fully emerge. Captain Sutton knew they were watching, calculating, wondering if humanity would be another species to be quietly managed or something entirely different. Deep within the Defiance's secure communication cores, encrypted messages were already being transmitted, not just to Earth, but to a network of human outposts and deep space installations that most of the galaxy didn't even know existed. Each transmission was a piece of a larger puzzle, a strategy decades in the making. The ship's quantum drives hummed with potential. Unlike traditional faster-than-light systems used by other species, humanity's drive technology was something entirely new. Developed from a combination of theoretical physics, reverse-engineered alien technology, and pure human innovation, it represented a quantum leap in space travel capabilities. Commander Chen pulled up a classified report, one that would never be shared with the alien representatives currently demanding explanations. It detailed the true extent of human preparedness. Colonies established in regions considered uninhabitable by other species, resource extraction methods that left no traceable environmental impact, communication networks that could operate entirely independently of existing galactic infrastructure. "They're stalling," Sutton muttered, more to herself than to her crew. The alien representatives were asking questions, demanding explanations, but they were really trying to buy time, to understand, to assess. What they didn't realize was that humanity had already assessed everything. The holographic display continued to show the alien representatives, their forms shifting between aggression and confusion. The Zornak ambassador's crystalline structure fractured slightly, a sign of extreme emotional stress in their species. Lieutenant Rodriguez's console blinked with an incoming priority transmission. Her eyes widened almost imperceptibly, a reaction that would have gone unnoticed by anyone who didn't know her as well as her crew did. "Captain," she said, her voice carefully neutral, "we're receiving something. Something unexpected." The bridge fell silent. Outside the ship's armored viewports, stars continued their timeless dance. Somewhere in the vast darkness, something was about to change, and humanity was ready. The unexpected transmission burned through the ship's secure communication channels like liquid fire. Captain Sutton felt the bridge crew tense, a collective intake of breath that spoke volumes about their training and discipline. "Decode it," she ordered. Lieutenant Rodriguez's fingers moved with surgical precision. The encrypted message began to unravel, fragments of data cascading across her holographic interface. What emerged was not a message, it was a warning. The Chlorian Collective was moving, not just preparing, not just watching. Moving with a level of coordination that suggested something far more significant than a routine response to a new potential threat. "Multiple fleet signatures detected," Commander Chen reported, his voice maintaining perfect neutrality. "The Chlorians are assembling a response force, unlike anything we've seen in recorded galactic history. Thousands of ships, not just warships, but entire mobile infrastructure, planetary extraction platforms, communication relays, massive biomechanical constructs that could transform entire star systems into operational bases within hours. The scale was unprecedented. Captain Sutton understood what this meant. This wasn't just about the Defiance. This was about humanity's entire future in the galactic community. The ship's quantum communication array began pulsing with a rhythm that suggested more than simple data transmission. Each pulse carried encrypted packages, contingency plans developed over decades of careful preparation. Plans that had been waiting for precisely this moment. "They think they can contain us," Sutton said quietly, more to herself than to her crew. "They've always believed they could manage any emerging species." Outside the ship's reinforced viewports, space itself seemed to ripple. Quantum drives were preparing. Not just on the Defiance, but on hundreds of human installations scattered across seemingly impossible locations. Outposts that had been quietly established, resources accumulated, technologies developed in absolute secrecy. Lieutenant Rodriguez's console suddenly erupted with warning signals. The Chlorian response was accelerating faster than any predictive model had anticipated. They weren't just responding. They were initiating a full-scale interdiction protocol. "Incoming transmission," Chen announced. Direct from Chlorian Central Command. The holographic display flickered. A being composed of interconnected energy matrices materialized, the physical representation of the Chlorian diplomatic corps. Its form was both beautiful and terrifying, constantly shifting, impossible to truly comprehend. "Humanity," the being stated, not asked, not questioned, simply declared. "Your expansion threatens the established galactic balance. Cessation of current operations is mandatory." Captain Sutton didn't move, didn't blink. The bridge crew remained absolutely still, a testament to years of training and preparation. "Mandatory." She repeated the word, letting it hang in the air. Interesting choice of language. Beneath the ship, massive energy systems began charging. Not weapon systems, not yet, but something far more fundamental. The quantum drives were preparing for a maneuver that would fundamentally challenge everything the galactic powers believed possible. The Chlorian representative's form began to destabilize, a sign of confusion, of an entity encountering something completely outside its understanding. Humanity had always been unpredictable, but this was something else entirely. "We have been watching," the Chlorian entity continued, "since your first interstellar communications. You are not prepared for the responsibilities of galactic citizenship." A slight smile crossed Sutton's face. Prepared was such a relative term. The distance between the Defiance and the massive Chlorian fleet was closing. Tens of thousands of ships, each capable of destroying entire planetary systems, were converging. The tension was more than physical. It was existential. Something was about to break, and humanity would be the one holding the line. "All systems," Captain Sutton said quietly. "Stand by." The universe held its breath. The silence shattered without warning. A series of quantum pulses erupted from beyond the Chlorian fleet's perimeter, signatures that shouldn't exist. Impossible signatures. Lieutenant Rodriguez's hands moved faster than thought, her neural interface struggling to process the incoming data. "Captain," she said, her voice a mix of professional calm and barely contained excitement, "we're detecting multiple quantum signatures. But they're not Chlorian. They're not human." Commander Chen's display flickered with impossible readings. The energy patterns defied every known law of quantum mechanics. Something was emerging from what should have been empty space, a region of space so thoroughly mapped and monitored that its emptiness was considered absolute fact. The Chlorian representative's energy matrix began to destabilize. For the first time, something resembling fear entered its transmission. "Impossible," the entity stated, its form fragmenting and reforming in rapid succession. Captain Sutton understood immediately. Whatever was happening wasn't part of any existing galactic scenario. This was something entirely new. Massive structures began to materialize. Not ships. Not any form of technology humanity or the Chlorians had ever encountered. They were something else. Organic. Time-fractured. Captain Rebecca Sutton felt reality twist around her. The bridge of the Defiance became something else, a space between spaces where consciousness merged with quantum probability. The mysterious entities that had emerged from nowhere were no longer external. They were internal, everywhere, nowhere. Maintained systems, she managed to say, her voice an anchor in a sea of quantum uncertainty. Commander Chen's console erupted with impossible data streams. The new entities weren't conquering. They were communicating. But communication meant something entirely different from what humanity had ever understood. Memories flooded through the ship's systems. Not human memories. Not alien memories. Something older. Fragments of civilizations that had risen and fallen before the first multicellular organisms emerged on Earth. Civilizations that existed in layers of reality humanity had never conceived possible. The Chlorian fleet, once the most feared military force in the galaxy, had become completely immobile. Frozen quantum states, preserved like insects in amber, caught between moments of existence. We are the continuance, a voice emerged, not through speakers, not through thought, through the very fabric of reality itself. Lieutenant Rodriguez's neural interface began to translate. Fragments of meaning crystallized. These beings were not invaders. They were guardians, watchers, preservers of potential, humanity's entire technological advancement, their strategic preparations, their quiet decades of development. It had all been a test they were just now understanding. The quantum entities began to reshape the space around the Defiance, not destructively, not aggressively, but with a precision that suggested complete understanding of every possible outcome. Your species has demonstrated recursive adaptation potential, the voice continued. A statement, not a compliment, not a judgment, simply an observation. Commander Chen's hands moved across his console, tracking the transformation. The ship wasn't being destroyed. It was being examined, analyzed at a level that went beyond physical inspection. Captain Sutton realized something critical. This wasn't first contact. This was something far more profound. Layers of galactic history unfolded. Humanity had always been an anomaly, a species that developed differently, that approached challenges from unexpected angles. The Chlorians had been watching, measuring, waiting. But these new entities, the continuance, had been watching far longer. The bridge crew experienced millennia in microseconds. Potential futures, alternate histories, evolutionary paths not taken. The quantum entities were sharing something fundamental about the nature of existence itself. Your preparation was observed, the voice stated. Your potential has been measured. Suddenly, everything snapped back into place. The Defiance hung in space. The Chlorian fleet remained motionless. And nothing and everything had changed. Lieutenant Rodriguez was the first to speak. Captain, she said, her voice trembling slightly, we're receiving a transmission. A single data packet, encrypted with a complexity that would take decades to fully decode. But its header was clear. An invitation. Commander Chen looked up. They want something from us, he said. Captain Sutton watched the stars. Something fundamental had shifted in the universe, and humanity was about to take its next step. But the final piece of the puzzle remained tantalizingly out of reach. The transmission's last line burned with possibilities. The next phase begins. 36 hours after the quantum encounter, the Defiance drifted in a carefully maintained holding pattern. Earth's top researchers worked around the clock, dissecting the single transmission that had changed everything. Captain Sutton sat in the briefing room, surrounded by holographic displays that flickered with fragments of decoded data. Each symbol, each quantum signature told a story more complex than any human had ever imagined. It's not just a message, Dr. Elena Reyes, the ship's chief scientific officer, explained. Her fingers traced quantum algorithms that seemed to dance and shift. It's a blueprint, a pathway. Commander Chen leaned forward, his military precision challenged by the sheer complexity of what they were discovering. The transmission wasn't just information. It was an invitation to something far beyond traditional exploration. The Chlorian fleet remained frozen in quantum stasis, a reminder of how little humanity truly understood about the universe. Those thousands of ships, once the most feared military force in the galaxy, now served as silent monuments to a fundamental shift in galactic dynamics. "They were testing us," Sutton said quietly. "Not a question. A statement of understanding." Lieutenant Rodriguez's research revealed layers of complexity. The quantum entities, the continuants, had been watching humanity for centuries. Every technological breakthrough, every diplomatic interaction, every moment of human potential had been carefully measured and analyzed. The final transmission contained more than just data. It contained a challenge. Humanity was being invited to something. Not conquest, not subjugation, but participation in a galactic framework so advanced it defied conventional understanding. "The next phase," Chen repeated, the words carrying weight beyond their simple construction. Earth's governments were in chaos. Military leaders argued. Scientific communities buzzed with unprecedented excitement. But aboard the Defiance, they understood something fundamental. This was just the beginning. Dr. Rice pulled up a final set of decoded fragments. The quantum transmission wasn't a single message. It was a multi-dimensional communication that would take years, perhaps decades, to fully comprehend. "They're offering us a choice," she said, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and profound respect. "Not just exploration, not just technological advancement, but genuine participation in something larger than ourselves." The Defiance had been more than a battleship. It had been a statement, a declaration of humanity's potential. And now it was a bridge to something entirely unknown. Captain Sutton looked out the viewport. The frozen Chlorian fleet, the vast emptiness of space, the quantum signatures that still lingered like distant memories. Humanity had always been about pushing boundaries, about exploring the unknown, about believing that something more existed just beyond the horizon. They had been right. The transmission's final decoded line remained burned into their systems. "Prepare. The universe awaits." Outside, space continued its silent dance. Billions of stars, infinite possibilities, and humanity, no longer just observers, but participants in a cosmic narrative far more complex than they had ever imagined. The next phase was about to begin.